Right. Mm. الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون. الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق. So we reached the explanation here. I believe it was four hadith the Sheikh was explaining, and we're at the hadith of our mother Aisha radiallahu anha. He said وفي حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها الدلالة على أن السنة التيمم. I think we read this. التيمم, that to start from the right في الوضوء وفي غيره. ولهذا قالت عائشة. So this is general. التيمم, to not tayammum with making wudu with dust, but tayammun with a noon, meaning starting with the right. Yamin comes from yamin, at tayammun. So that the Prophet did everything good starting from the right. However, there's no text uh, because sometimes I think one time it was like a dispute happening here about where should people line up from. So there's no text that says line up from the right or line up from the left, right? So normally, number one, it starts where the imam is. And then normally the mu'adhin is behind the imam. And then from there, from the right of the mu'adhin, from the left of the mu'adhin, it doesn't matter. Or whoever's there first. From the right of them or to the left of them, it doesn't matter. But because of this hadith, that everything good the Prophet did, he started with the right, then it will be recommended based on this general text. Now, uh, في الوضوء وفي غيره, and making wudu other than that. ولهذا قالت عائشة رضي الله عنها كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعجبه تيمم, that the Prophet used to like التيمم starting with the right. وفي لفظ آخر يحب التيمم في تنعله وترجله وطهوره. So he used to like starting from the right, when putting on his shoes, when walking, starting with the right foot, and in his purification. أي طهره, أي تطهره. Now, وفي شأنه كله, in everything he did, he used to love beginning with or starting with the right hand. Okay, there are some things that are obligatory to do starting with the right hand, like eating, swatching. Someone may say, okay, what if someone's left-handed? Then at that point, the person should train themselves to eat with the right hand. Because the Prophet ﷺ said that shaitan eats with his left hand. So if we're not supposed to imitate the kuffar in general, specifically this kafir. Shaitan is from the kuffar. So we're not going to do anything that the kuffar, that is specific to the kuffar, and especially the shayateen from the kuffar. So we talked about the man. And this is very important. Allah said, وَيَحْذَرَ الَّذِينَ يُخَالِفُونَ عَنْ أَمْرِهِ أَنْ تُصِيبَهُم فِتْنَةٌ أَوْ يُصِيبَهُم عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. And warn those who oppose the command of the Messenger of Allah وسلم, that a trial may befall them or a painful torment. So during the time of the Prophet وسلم, a man was eating with his left. And the Prophet said, "Kul biyaminik." He said, eat with your right. He said, "La astati'." He said, I can't. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Walan tastati'." He said, and you will never be able to. And then his right arm became paralyzed permanently. But going against the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. So when the Prophet said you would never be able to, he was making dua against them for that. So we don't tell you this, oh, you're right, left, it's all going down. No, we're Muslims. If the Prophet made emphasize and it was important, he said, this is the shaitan does this act, then what? We train our children. Just like anything else that is incorrect, this is incorrect. People that do not, Allah said, وَتُعَزِّرُوا وَتُوَقِّرُوهُ, that we exalt the Prophet ﷺ, exalt Allah Ta'ala, and we respect the Prophet ﷺ. وَتُسَبِّحُهُ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا, by night and by day. But وَتُوَقِّرُوهُ, and we give respect to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. So if he said do this and don't do that, we respect that, we do that, and we don't do that. And if we fall weak and we, because of weakness or transgression, we do it believing it's wrong for us to do it. We don't do it justifying it, saying it's okay for us to do it. And this is the danger. That man became permanently paralyzed in his right hand for going against something that the Prophet ﷺ told him to do. And this is not just during the time of the Prophet. It's after the Prophet, when somebody sees a clear command or clear prohibition with text, with the correct understanding from Kitab wa Sunnah, he says, I'm not doing it, I won't do it, or I'm going to do it even if somebody says I shouldn't do it, then this person falls into danger of being removed from the fold of Islam by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not by anyone else, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what is important. Because it doesn't matter who considers you a believer, a Muslim, or whatever, if Allah Ta'ala has removed you from the fold of Islam. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, he left an آخر. Now, we read that. Now, وهذا يدل على شرعية تيمم في الوضوء والغسل، وتقدم ذلك أنه يبدأ باليمين قبل اليسار. نعم، هل هذا واجب أم لا؟ على قولين لأهل العلم. Now, he says, so this points to the fact that the legislation, the Sharia, our legislation, that it is legislated to begin from the right in wudu and in ghusl, and that which has preceded, that it begins with the right and not the left. Is this obligatory or not? Scholars have two opinions concerning this. منهم من رآه واجبا في الوضوء، ومنهم من رآه مستحبا، وهم الجمهور. And we respect and we hold our scholars in high esteem. When you begin to study fiqh, you're going to hear this word that I just mentioned, jamhur. Jamhur means majority. It means majority. It's not ijma', which means consensus. Everybody said this. Jamhur means majority. So sometimes people use jamhur, majority, to mean it's not permissible to go against this because the majority of the scholars said that. The number of people saying the thing is not important as the evidence that supports their position. The number of people saying the thing, and we're not talking about kuffar, we're not talking about bad people, we're talking about righteous people. The number of righteous people saying one thing does not have more weight than the evidence that supports what's being said. And this is why when the Prophet ﷺ told the Sahaba, alaykum bil jama'ah, stick to the jama'ah. And jama'ah normally means congregation. Stick to the jama'ah. So you would think that means, because it means congregation, whatever group is the most, whoever the most, people, then that's the jama'ah, because it points to a group. But Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, when he was asked what is the meaning of al-jama'ah, what is the meaning of congregation? He said, كل ما يوافق الحق ولو كنت وحدك. Everything that agrees with the truth, even if you're alone. So jamhur, don't be afraid when you hear, you have an ayah, hadith, with the explanation and understanding of those first three generations. And then somebody say, more scholars said this. And they say, okay, well, what is the proof? What do you mean with proof? It's 8 scholars saying this, 1 scholar saying that. Yes, but this scholar has the ayah with the tafsir and has a hadith with the explanation. What do they have supporting what they say? That's just not the way they look at it. Then this is their opinion. Imam Malik, who was the Imam of the Prophet's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he used to say, he used to stand on the Prophet's minbar, rahimahullah ta'ala. He used to say, كل يؤخذ منه ويراد إلا صاحب هذا القبر. He used to point to the Prophet's grave. Everyone has a right to have their statements accepted or rejected, except for the one in that grave. So it doesn't matter how many of them there are. It doesn't matter how old they are. It doesn't matter how deep they've studied, how many degrees or ijazat or anything. None of that matters if it's not supported with evidence. It's not supported with evidence. And we talked about what is evidence. We talked about evidence before. What is evidence? Who remembers? What is evidence? Somebody say you need evidence. You need dalil. What is dalil? Proof. That's the translation. But what is proof? When can someone say that they have proof?
Proof from the Quran and Sunnah.
From the Quran and Sunnah. Okay.
Evidence.
Evidence. Now, the translation of dalil. But what is evidence? What is proof? And the Sheikh said from Quran and Sunnah. Now, see, yeah. Okay, this is physical proof. Hear it, see it, and like touch it.
Foundation.
No, the Sheikh, he said from Quran and Sunnah. So it's either ayah or hadith. But I asked this question before, maybe some brothers forgot. Is the Quran and hadith dalil? Is the Quran and hadith dalil? Proof. Yeah. They're like, very truly, I thought the most, what? Who said that? Is the Quran and hadith dalil? Is it proof? Yes? Yes? You would say yes? 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 Right? Yes? 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 Sister, yes? Anybody online? Is the Quran Sunnah dalil? Sister Hasana says yes. Anyone else?
Yes.
Yes. Nah. Okay. Brother Abu Bakr says yes. Okay. So we have a problem now. So we're saying the Quran and Sunnah is dalil. So if somebody says something and quotes a verse to support what they say, they have proof because they quoted a verse. Okay, it's a group that deviated. They began during the time of the Prophet, and then they became many during the time of the companions, right? After Umar was assassinated, these people just began spreading through, and they were the reason for Uthman being assassinated and Ali being assassinated. They assassinated both of them. Allah Musta'an. And the reason they killed 2 of the 10 promised Jannah is because of them, specifically Ali radiallahu anhu, using 2 of the Sahaba to judge between him and Muawiyah. So they took a verse from Surah Yusuf, and there's in other surahs in Surah Yusuf, they said, Innal hukmu illa lillah. That ruling, judging, is only for Allah. So they said, so when you use those other Sahaba to judge, this took you out of the fold of Islam. And they used this ayah as proof. And they begin fighting, waging war against the Sahaba. So based on our basic understanding, they had proof of what they did. They quoted a verse of the Quran. Also, they made takfir, meaning declaring Muslims. They declared every Muslim that commits a major sin as a kafir. Said the fornicator is a kafir. And they quoted the hadith that's in Sahih Muslim. And this was before it was even collected by Imam Muslim. It was memorized by the men before Sahih Muslim was even collected. The Prophet ﷺ said, La yazni zani, hina yazni wa huwa mu'min. That the one who fornicates at the time of fornicating is not a believer. That was their proof for saying he's a kafir. Were they right?
It has to be explained from the Sahaba.
Nah. Okay, we have to explain. Sheikh Ahmed says it has to be explained by the Sahaba. What do you say, Sheikh Jamil? Yes, they were right. Okay. Anyone else? Were they right or wrong? Wrong? Right? Right? Sister says they were right. Anyone else?
I would just say they're wrong.
Why would you say they're wrong, Musafa?
I just feel like they was wrong. There's something in there that just, but I think you're gonna tell us they were wrong.
They used the hadith. They were wrong.
Huh?
They used the hadith as a general thing because it said who said in the act. He's a kafir while he's in the act.
No, not a kafir. He's not a believer.
While he's in the act.
Right.
So once the act is over, he can't still be a disbeliever,
Mhm.
because you don't know what he did after.
But I'm asking were they right or wrong?
Wrong.
Wrong.
So what?
And everything has to be up wrong.
No, them when they declared Uthman, Ali, other Sahaba when they Muawiyah when they declared them to be kuffar because they brought two people to judge between them. They said and they quoted the verse: the ruling is only for Allah, and you judging is only for Allah, and you made two people judge that they're not Allah, so you left Islam. And when they used the hadith, the fornicator at the time of fornicating is not a believer until he leaves it all. They use that as a proof that anybody that commits fornication is not a Muslim. So were they right or wrong?
They were wrong.
They were wrong. Okay, so Abu Bakr says they were wrong. You say? Wrong. He says they were wrong. Okay, so let's get back to the reason we're at. Oh, sorry, Sheikh Zimmer.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so back to what we were the question at hand. So now, for those who said they were wrong, who said Abu Bakr, Sheikh Ahmed, what's your name? Little Muhammad. Okay, who else said they were wrong? Muhammad. Musafir said they were wrong. Okay, wrong. Okay, Sister Chase, he said they were wrong. So now we have a problem. We're going back to our problem now. Question still stands now because they quoted verses for their position. Is the Quran and Sunnah proof? They quoted Quran and Sunnah.
It has to be explained by the Prophet and the Sahaba.
Okay, Sheikh Ahmed said it has to be explained like the Prophet and Sahaba. So this is one point that is very true and is very important. So the Quran and Sunnah, and please hold on to this, ikhwa. The Quran and Sunnah are proof in evidence in and of themselves. Within the Quran is proof within in and of itself. The Sunnah is proof in and of itself. But it is not proof. They are not proof for the one that is using them for proof until it fits three conditions. Three conditions. For the Quran and Sunnah to be evidence for the one using it, there are three conditions. The first condition is authenticity. The first condition is authenticity. Now we understand when it comes to Quran, I'm sorry, the Sunnah, that it has to be authentic. But how can we say that about the Quran? What do we mean when we say it has to be authentic, even if from the Quran it still has to be authentic? What does that mean?
It can't be, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that, but like any changes, or it has to be like, okay, here, I don't know the right.
It can't be abrogated. They can't use abrogated verses, right? And abrogated verses is a verse that is three different types. So you have the verse that it is still recited. The words of the verse is still in the Quran, but the ruling has been removed. Like concerning fasting, it used to be that if someone were old or felt weak, and if he couldn't fast, he could feed poor people. That was removed. Yep, that was removed. Hey, now, yeah. So that was removed. Feeding poor people is like either fast, Allah gave الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين, and for those who is not able to do it, then fidya. They give the sacrifice by feeding poor people. So you can either fast or feed people. That's how it was. Then Allah Ta'ala said, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. Then Allah said, whoever was present, healthy, and like that, he in the month of Ramadan comes, fast. So that abrogated that in the same, verses. So first it was, if you can fast, fast. If you can't feed people. Then after that, no, fast, unless you have an excuse like that. Also, dealing with fornicators. It used to be that the ayat of Surah An-Nisa, right? واللاتي يأتين الفاحشة من نسائكم إلى آخر الآية. Allah Ta'ala said what? فأمسكوهن في البيوت حتى يتوفاهن الموت أو يجعل الله لهن سبيلا. Lock them in the houses. The women that commit fornication, lock them in their houses until they die, or Allah Ta'ala gives another way about this. That was abrogated. Surah An-Nur, Allah said, lash the male and female fornicator that are not married and stone the male and female fornicator that are married. Now, So the adulterers get stoned, the fornicators, that was abrogated. But those verses are still, not the verse of stoning, but that verse in Surah An-Nisa is still in the Quran. That verse in Surah Al-Baqarah is still in the Quran recited. So it's abrogated. So now no one can go to that verse. وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين. No one can go to that verse and say, I don't have to fast, I'm just going to feed people because of this verse. That verse was abrogated. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. Then whoever from you witnesses the month of Ramadan, fast it. It's it. It's over with. So no one can use that verse. So now it's not authentic to use that verse as a ruling today because that verse was abrogated even though it's still recited. Nah. So it has to be authentic. It cannot be an abrogated verse from the Quran, and it can't be a fabricated hadith from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, or extremely weak hadith from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, or an abrogated hadith. Huh? The Prophet ﷺ said, I used to prohibit you from visiting the graves. Now I say visit the graves. SubhanAllah. So that hadith was abrogated by the hadith we said, now I'm telling you, visit. Nah. And the purpose of visiting the grave, he said, in order to what? This is for the women. In order for them to get al-maw'idah, like to remind themselves of death. Not to perform worship, but to remind themselves of death, like the men were doing. Nah. So it cannot be an abrogated verse. So the first condition, it must be authentic. The second condition, it has to be upon the understanding of the Prophet ﷺ, Shaykh Ahmed was saying, and his companions. It has to be their understanding. It cannot be an understanding of anyone that didn't take their understanding from those first three generations of Muslims. That understanding has to be according to the understanding of them. A clear example of this proper understanding, a woman came to our mother Aisha radiallahu anha from a place called Hurra in Iraq. And she came and she said, how is it that we have to make up our fast after our menses, but we don't have to make up our salat after our menses? And the salat is more important than the fast. That's what she says. Our mother became upset and said, Auntie? She said, are you from that? Because the Khawarij were known to be from this place. And they were known to they were known to be extremists. They're extremists. So when the woman asked that question, she said, you're from those women, from those people that ask those kind of questions. You're from those people that ask these kind of questions. You're from that group. Right? She said, we used to, during the time of the Prophet, after the Prophet's death, make up the fast and not make up the salah. It's your problem. So it has to be according to their understanding. The hadith in Sahih Muslim of Abi Sa'id al-Khudri would happen. He's the narrator of the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, he said, Ma afdalu jihad. What is the best jihad? The Prophet said, Kalimatul haq inda sultanin jair. He said to say the truth in the face of a tyrant ruler. He's the narrator of the hadith. He was also present during the time of the leadership of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, of course, he had many oppressive governors under him, and he was responsible for the murder of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Not Zubayr ibn Awwam, but his son, Abdullah, the son of Zubayr ibn Awwam from the 10 Promised Jannah, and Asma bint Abi Bakr. Abdullah ibn Zubayr was their son, and he was righteous, and he was in control of Mecca and Medina, in a part of Iraq, his brother. Whereas Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he was in control of Sham, the towns of Sham and some other places that I don't recall right now. So under his rule was Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. He's known in the books of Islamic history as As-Saffah, the mass murderer. He was a very vicious leader. And his issue is between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because those who read the Quran according to 30 juz, he's the one that did that. He's the same one. SubhanAllah. He's the same one who, when in India, a ruler there, they made fun of a Muslim woman, pinned her hijab up on her back. She was exposed and embarrassed. And the report got back to Hajjaj, the governor, one of the governors of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. And when it got back to him, he sent that leader a letter. He said, if you don't openly apologize and restore her honor, I'm going to send to you an army. When the first part of the army, when the beginning of the army reaches you, the last part of it's still going to be here where I am at. And he apologized and he straightened out everything. So it's like, what do you say about this individual? But at the same time, he was a mass murderer. He killed companions and he killed Tabi'in. You're gonna there's a book on it. I forget who the author is. It's called Al-Hajjaj fil Mizan. Like how do you look at him? Put Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi in the scale. How do you look at him? And the reason, I know this is a sidebar benefit. The reason he became so vicious is because someone lied to him. This is tail carrying and lying and backbiting. This is how dangerous it is in our community. Someone lied to him and said that he used to teach Quran. It was after the Quran. He used to teach Quran to the children in Iraq and like that. So he wanted to teach in Mecca or Medina, and he told some of the what do you call it, like dignitaries of Abdullah ibn Zubair who were in Iraq, visiting and like that. And he said, could you talk to Abdullah ibn Zubair and tell him I would like to be appointed, in one of the Haramain and like that. So the liar who was under, Abdullah ibn Zubair didn't know about this. He said, you're nothing but a kindergarten teacher. You think he doesn't know you? He doesn't want to know you? And he said like that to him. And he became upset. So at that point, all he wanted to do is get revenge for being disrespected. And he began working his way through the army of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and then he became general like that, and then he became his deputy, then he became his governor. Then after that, he unleashed his anger on Abdullah ibn Zubair and anybody that accompanied him. Allah understand. But he's the one who told the scholars of Quran to sit down. He said he wanted the Quran to be divided into 30 even parts. So the way it is, ajza, 30 even parts, it's based on how many words. That's how they did it. They counted the words. So this many words in that juz. So that's even. So they made sure the exact amount of words in every juz. So it could be 30 parts even like that. So there's nothing we can do to stop him getting rewarded for people that go by that. SubhanAllah. And even on his deathbed, la ilaha illallah. Even one of the tabi'in, he was drowning. He was drowning. He was in the ocean. He was drowning. And one of the tabi'in ran, saved him. And the other tabi'in, he said, why would you save him? He said, after everything that he did, you want him to die a shaheed? So he saved us because the Prophet said, "Man mata gharif huwa shaheed." Whoever dies drowning, is shaheed. He said, after everything, all of the person he's done, you're gonna let him down drowning, so can be a shaheed like that. But the thing is with him, inshallah, you know his name now. Read about him, but the deep part about him is that on his deathbed, he said, "Allahumma ighfir li fa innahum yaquluna innaka lan taghfir li." He said, oh, Allah, forgive me, for indeed they say you won't forgive me. That's when he died. It's his last words. So, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan was hated by many righteous people. Was hated. And the Eid came. During that time, the Khalifa gave the khutbah for the Eid. This is after they took over. They killed Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Killed him, took over Mecca and Medina. And now the Eid is coming. The Muslims are coming together to pray. And Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, he's sitting there. And he began giving the khutbah, the Eid. So Abdul Malik ibn Marwan began giving the khutbah. So we know the Eid, Salah is before the khutbah. Jumu'ah, khutbah then Salah, the Eid is the opposite. Salah and then khutbah. So Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, the one who understands this hadith, he stood up and said, As-Salah qabla al-khutbah. But Abdul Malik ibn Marwan knew that nobody was going to listen to his khutbah. So he made the khutbah before the salah so that he could make sure everybody listened to what he had to say. So Abu Sa'id al-Khudri said, As-salah qabla al-khutbah. That the prayers before the khutbah. He looked at him and said, ذهبت تلك الأيام. So those days are gone. Those days are over. So now, there are groups that use this hadith as proof for, what is it called? Tijajat. Yeah, this all that. Protesting. They use this hadith as proof for protesting. Where's the protest? Where's the protest? He said what he said and sat down. They also use the hadith, kalimatul haq, in the sultan and jair, to speak the word of the truth in front of a tyrant or to a tyrant ruler. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri narrated both of them. He did not gather the people together. Come on, you'll see what he said. The Prophet ﷺ didn't do this. And then raised it. He didn't do that. He didn't do it. So now those who use that hadith as proof for riots and protests and all of that, they have no dalil because the narrator himself didn't understand nor implement that hadith the way they're using it. He knew best. Why didn't he tell Abdullah ibn Umar and Abdullah ibn Abbas? They were still alive present. Anas ibn Malik. Why didn't he say, you see what he's doing? We have to say something. We have to do something. He didn't do that. He sat down, listened to the khutbah, and prayed the salah. So it has to be authentic. It has to be according to the understanding of the first three generations. And it has to be according to their application. So it doesn't matter how many verses a person quotes, how many hadith a person narrates. If it's not according to the understanding, if it's not authentic, it's not according to the understanding, and if it's not according to the application of those individuals that Allah Ta'ala said about them in Surah At-Tawbah, radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. This is a great praise. This is a great praise. Number one, it's sufficient that Allah was pleased with them. Allah said Allah is وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ تَبَعُوهُم بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ. If Allah stopped there, that would be sufficient. Allah is pleased with them. Then Allah said, وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ, and they're pleased with him. SubhanAllah. Allah gave credence to them being pleased with him. He gave importance to these individuals. Radiallahu anhum. He gave credence to them being pleased with him. Doesn't matter if we are pleased or displeased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the Lord of the worlds. Doesn't matter. We don't count. Our opinion doesn't count. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned their feeling or their opinion about Allah. It counts. وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ, and they're pleased with him. So how could we dare to go against their understanding and their application? We dare. SubhanAllah. So doesn't matter how much dalil or how many verses a person quotes or hadith a person recites, if it doesn't meet those three conditions, he doesn't have evidence. He doesn't have evidence. And Imam al-Shafi'i mentioned in al-I'tisam. No, I'm sorry, he mentioned no. And al-I'tisam, a very important principle. He said about bid'ah, لو كانت باطل محض ما قبلت. If it was pure falsehood, it would never be accepted. So every innovation has some truth with it. Don't be fooled. Every innovation has some truth with it. Because if it was pure falsehood, nobody accepts pure, complete falsehood. Who's going to accept pure, complete falsehood? Every form of deviation has some truth with it. We talked about this before, Christianity. It's deviation from the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it has truth in it. What is some truth that's in Christianity? We know some truth that Christians have. Anyone?
Compassion. He performed miracles.
He performed miracles.
Yeah, Jesus didn't have a dad. I mean,
He didn't have a father. He was born without a father. Nah. No, about Isa alayhi salam.
They have an antichrist.
That the Antichrist is real. Nah. The Dajjal. No, we're talking about Isa. Isa alayhi salam, Jesus.
Oh.
Truths about Jesus.
Miracle birth.
Birth was a miracle. Born without a father.
Spoken to crazy.
Spoke in the cradle. He's the Messiah. He's the Messiah. Huh? His mother, Mary, she was a virgin when she gave birth to him. So yeah, they have some truth. Huh? I don't know. Nah, I don't know. Nah. But yeah, the third one
He's coming back too.
is it has to be according to their implementation, their application. So authentic, according to their understanding and according to their implementation, the application. Nah. Yeah, he's coming back. We believe that he's coming back and all of that. Yeah. I saw that on a TikTok or YouTube video today. This Kafir, he did just a little bit of research about the Muslims. He's saying, the Christians say, he's Christian, he said, the Christians say that Jesus is coming back. The Muslims say that the Mahdi is coming. And he is their Messiah and like that. And then he actually quoted a part of Hadith that their Prophet Muhammad said, and he will have my name and my father's name and have my features. Okay, but he's not a Messiah. We still believe that Isa is coming back. So he just did a little bit of research, just enough to confuse the people. And be careful that Muslims, when you talk to them, and they say, do not, and they try to stop you from actually expressing yourself. Doesn't this say yes or no? Doesn't it say this in your hadith? Didn't your Prophet say? And they try to stop you from saying your own answer. No. So if I can't answer the way I'm supposed to answer, then there's no conversation between us. You're not going to fix my answer. Say it yes or no. No, it's not going to be just yes or no. It needs an explanation. But now, so this is when the Quran and Sunnah is proof. So when somebody says to you that Jamhur, the majority of the scholars, the majority is established just by being one more than the other side. That means majority. It doesn't mean when you hear majority, because the word majority in English is like something big. You hear majority, you might think it means 3 over here, 50 scholars over here. That's not what it means. And it's talking about the form of the head anyway. Form of the head now. So now, if we come about it. So this is the Jamhur, and we'll just take this part. Well, so some say it's let's just finish this point. Some say it's obligatory, and some say it's highly recommended. And I was going to go into it here, but I'm not going to go into it now, just to bring the points of evidence for either side. So it's a hadith in Bukhari that brings the point of argument for each side. When you come to an issue of ikhtilaf, in which both sides have evidence, this is the one where I'm talking about they actually have evidence to the point that it's not clear anymore. Like the hadith, for me, I take a position, but know that for a fact that anytime the companions, those generations differ in something, no matter who agrees about it after them, it's still a difference of opinion. And anytime those first 3 generations agreed on something, it doesn't matter what level of knowledge the person is, there can never be ikhtilaf after ijma'. After they agree, nobody can come and say, well, some scholars say that it's a difference of opinion. After the companions, who? Some scholars no. I heard the Sheikh say that that's agreed upon. Ibn Abbas and Ali differed on this. So how can it be agreed upon after the Sahaba differed on this? It's impossible. So So anytime you have like do you go down on your hands first or your feet first going to sujood? The biggest argument is based on the same exact hadith. The main argument goes around the same hadith. The Prophet said, don't prostrate like a camel. Don't go into prostration like a camel. So some say what? The camel leans forward and then leans back. But that means not to go on your hands. The other said, what do you mean the camel leans forward and leans back? That means not going on your hands. The camel doesn't have hands. Camel has all knees. It means don't go down on your knees because the camel doesn't have hands. So the same hadith, they have their opinion based on that. So this is ikhtilaf. Nah. And then, okay, I'll finish this point. وهكذا يستحب في الغسل. يبدأ شق الأيمن قبل الأيسر. So it's just like in ghusl. He begins with the right side before the left side. وهكذا في لباسه يستحب أن يبدأ باليمين ويدخل ويدخل قمه الأيمن قبل الأيسر. And even when he's wearing, he puts the right sleeve in before the left sleeve. وفي القميص وفي السراويل, also in his shirt, in his pants. Now والبشت وعند اللبس, everything يبدأ in his stove and when he wears it. عند اللبس يبدأ بالأيمن, he begins with the right. وعند الخلع يبدأ باليسار, and when taking it off he begins with the left. هذا هو الأفضل, this is better. وبالنعلين, and with his 2 shoes. والخفين, and his 2 socks. كذلك. Now, so we'll stop here. If there's any statements or questions about anything that was said, we'll take them now. If not, this is where we stop. No.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
nah.
Could you go back over the three conditions that must be met? I mean,
Nah, for it to be dalil.
right.
Yeah. The first condition is authenticity.
Okay.
No. So a person cannot use an abrogated verse as proof for an action today. It's abrogated. Can't use it anymore.
Okay.
No. The second condition, we said authenticity, right? That it has to be according to the understanding of the first three generations. You have to understand it the way they understood it. The third condition, it has to be according to the way they applied it, their application. So if someone tries to use a verse from the Quran like the Khawarij did, the ruling is only for Allah. Like the Murji'a did. He said, Allah doesn't forgive the sin of shirk, but he forgives less than that, to whoever he pleases. So they said, oh, well, so if someone has Iman, then they say Iman is one thing. So as long as you have Iman, sins won't affect you. They don't believe that that Iman increases and decreases. They say Iman is one thing. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. And we said that the Khawarij and the Murji'a are polar opposites. They are in the extreme of hope. The Khawarij are in the extreme of fear. The Khawarij, because of their extreme fear, without evidence to support it, they made Muslims kuffar. They said, you're a kuffar because you committed this major sin. The other ones made Shaitan a Muslim. Made Shaitan a Muslim. Even as a deviant, it's not even a sheikh. It's a deviant guy that comes on television. He used to come on television. President Hosni Mubarak banned him from Egypt. Amr Khalid. Anybody ever heard of Amr Khalid?
Yeah.
Yeah. He said,
I haven't heard of him for so long.
Yeah, Hosni Mubarak, alhamdulillah, he banned him from Egypt because he was mixing the minds of the Egyptian youth. He was taking their minds. They were following him. He was sitting with the youth, the guys and the girls together. They were laughing, and he was taking the minds of the youth as if he was making them religious, but he wasn't. He was making them, follow their desires and just, behave just like the kuffar. He was hanging out with them and laughing with them and joking with them. And then he said, Shaitan ma kafarsh. Ma kafarsh. He said, Shaitan didn't disbelieve. He said, Shaitan, بل كان أذكى من الملائكة. He was smarter than the angels. SubhanAllah. He said, because he knew that sujood was only for Allah. And this is why he didn't make sujood to Adam. La ilaha illallah. So what is he going to do with the verse? إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. So what's he going to do? What is he going to do? Look at his understanding. Look at the verse. He didn't disbelieve because he knew that sujood was only for Allah. During that time, that's the beginning. No salah has been legislated except what Allah taught Adam alayhi salam. So he can't say that. That wasn't Adam alayhi salam. He didn't have a sharia. He didn't have a sharia. He had wahi, he had revelation, but he didn't have a sharia. So, Allah musta'an. Now, did you get that, Brother Abu Bakr?
Yes. You say the third one is according to the way that the first three generations applied. Or
Yes.
okay.
Their application. Yes.
Jazakallah khair.
Everyone, yeah. No. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.